Hey everybody, what's up? My name is Fergie and I'm a UX designer based out of London, and today I am partnering with Bravo to bring you this video on creating native mobile app forms and setting up that API data connection. We're going to advance from what we learned in the first video, where we created our design in XD, added those all-important Bravo tags, and then previewed and tested our app on our devices using Bravo Vision. We're taking things a step further by setting up that API connection to a live database full of different types of information. The benefits of doing this mean that when those data records change, we're not having to go into our design file and do any updates. It's all just going to sync effortlessly. So with this clever combination of Bravo and Airtable, we're also going to look at setting up page templates that will automatically adjust to fit the number of records we want to display as our content. So let's jump in and get started.
Okay, so here you can see we're in our Adobe XD document and I have the screens all ready to go. And we're just going to go through the Bravo tags that you need to add to make everything work together. So the first things that we're going to come and look at here are the login and the register screens. So if you want to be able to have login with authorized user accounts, then there is a separate way to do that. And if you want to know how to create this, then just let me know down below in the comments and I can create a dedicated video to go over that. But for now, we're just going to create some basic form functionality. So we have the form set up over here, and we'll use this registration one as an example. And you can see I'm asking for name, date of birth, phone number, email, and then for them to set a password. So what we need to do is go over to Bravo Studio and find the master tag list. If you're not familiar with where to get this, you can find it in the menu of the dashboard, just over here. So that will open up this Notion document. Now the things that we're interested in come under form, since that is what we are creating, and you can see all the different type of form elements we're able to create and tag using Bravo. So the first one we want to use for our name field is just going to be this single line of text. So we need the tag component, input, and text. And now the important thing to pay attention to is where this tag needs to go within our XD document. And it needs to go to the text layer. So if I select our text layer here, you can see we have the right tag, component, input, text. Now the other thing you'll also notice is I have a layer name. It's totally fine, and actually I would advise to name your layers so that when we're connecting things up later on, then you can easily distinguish which layer needs the connection to which data point. So this is my text field for the name, and then I just have component, input, text. Next up we have date of birth. Now I want users to be able to enter this by using the calendar functionality. And we can do that with the input field date, and what this is going to do is turns that into a date picker. So when this is selected, the user is going to be shown the native date picker, whether that's Android or iOS, depending on your device, that's what it's going to use. So the tag we need here is the component, input, and date, and again, this is going to go on the text layer. So if we go back into our design file, select that text layer, you can see we've already got that there, component, input, and date, again with a layer name. Next up we have phone number and email. So for phone number, make sure to use telephone, and what this is going to do is going to pull up the number pad instead of the full alphabet keypad, so that the user can't enter any letters. They're only going to be able to enter numbers because obviously that is the only thing valid for a phone number. And then the last field that we have in our design is password. So we're going to use input field and password. So you can see that's component, input, like they all have that structure, component, then input, and then there's a hyphen, and then we use the right name on the end of that tag, so it's going to be password. And what this does is it will turn the box into a password input field, but it also means that anything that the users type into this entry field is turned into a dot, a little bit like keeping the password secret. You know, you type in a letter and you just get a dot or a star or something, you know, it's obscured. So if I go back here, I'll show you we have all of those tags in place. component input tell, component input and email, and then component input and password. Now, one of the really interesting ones that I think is going to be really fun to use is being able to add a profile photo as well when the users are signing up and registering. So you can see I have this group here, and inside my group for this button I have the camera icon, the add photo label, and then also the square shape that forms the button. Now, to be able to input an image, upload a photo, or take a brand new photo using the camera, what we want to do is use the input field image tag. But the important thing to note about this tag is that it needs to go on that rectangle layer, so we need to put this on our shape layer. So if I go back to our file here, you can see that my shape layer, we've added that tag, component input. So the next thing for us to do is create this sign up button that is going to submit all of this form data into our database that will connect via Airtable. So coming in here, I have this button, and you'll see I've just got the shape and the text label grouped together, and I've not made it a container or anything like that, but I've used this action submit. You just want to again go back to that forms section, and you'll find that this last row here is submit the data. So the tag we want is action submit, and it's going to go on any layer except the top level and container. So this is why I've not made my shape and label a container. I've just grouped them together because this will not work on a container, and this is going to send our data to that database. So you can see I have my rectangle, my sign up text, and then I've grouped them together, and that's where the Bravo tag has gone, action submit. And that is how this form is going to then be added into our Airtable database. Okay, so the next thing, we also have a few screens here that make up the rest of our application. We have a home page, a yoga classes feed, a detailed screen about the class, and then also a bookings screen so the user can see which classes they've booked into. So you'll notice on my home screen I only have one class, on the yoga class screen again we only have one, and then I only have one screen for class details. But obviously we're going to have multiple classes. So the way that we've got this set up is I'm starting to create templates. So because we are getting the data from our database with that GET API request, it means that we don't have to create this screen for all of the different classes. All we have to do is set it up in Bravo so that it knows what data to display. So this is going to save us a lot of work and means that our design file doesn't have to be really large. So let me just show you how I've done that here, and I've done it in the same way for both the yoga class screen and the home screen and recommended list. They're just different container types. So I'm going to use this one as an example first, and what this is going to do once we've got it all connected up is just be a list of these cards displaying each of the different classes. So if I go into this screen, you'll see that I have all of the elements I want here for my card grouped into a container. So if I open this up, you'll see I have what I've just called the card, and that's all the content I want. And then I have a shape layer that has no fill and no border, and I've just called it area, and that is so that Bravo knows what space to give this container. Otherwise things are going to be butted up really against each other. I want to give everything a little bit of space. So imagine this is how you can create the sort of padding and margin, as it were. Inside my card, you can see it's just made up of a few items. I have the class image, so that's a photo that I want to use for each of the yoga classes. I have the name of the class, given them all a star rating, how long the class lasts for, and then also when the class is taking place. And you can see there are no Bravo tags needed here, and that's because we're going to connect this all inside Bravo Studio when we bind the layer to our database and create that data connection. Now the one I have on the home screen is a little bit different because I want this to be a horizontal scroll rather than a vertical list. So this basically needs a different type of container. And you'll see here I've called it card, and then I've used the Bravo tag container slider horizontal. So let me just show you that in the master tags list. Going to close this form section here and open up containers. And you'll see there's lots of different types. And when we want horizontal scroll, you'll see that there's a number of different tags here. So how do you know which one to use? Well, if you look on this little tutorial link here, that link will open up this window for you that explains what each of those tags means, because they basically have a different animation between each of the items within the slider. And you can see here, cube, for example, has this cube-like animation. Crossfade will fade between the items that you have there. But I just want ours to be a horizontal list, so I've used container, slider, horizontal. I don't want to use any of these animations for now, but this is how you could animate between them. Now within that you can see that again I have this rectangle named area. It has no fill and no border. It is just so that Bravo knows this container should be this size. And then inside of there I have our card. It's basically the same card but just a smaller size. And later on in Bravo again we will connect that up and bind it to our data from the API. We also have a class details screen, and this is just made up of a few containers. So we've started to use this top bar here. So with our title and our navigation, that is just container top bar. So to find the right tags, we would just look through here and we can see container top bar. It needs to be a second level container, which basically means it needs to be added to the group name, not the item level, so not the individual piece of text, and not the artboard level in the artboard name. And it's obviously just a container. So we have a top bar. We also on all of our screens have the nav bar down here, and you'll notice that I haven't actually used a container for this. I've just called it layer. Now the reason for this is you can use a navbar menu. If we open up our menu section here, that would be a tabs menu, and you can again see this tutorial here of what that looks like and how it works. So you can see it's a navbar here and it just goes between everything. And the way this would be set up is you would normally have a separate artboard for this, and this Bravo tag would go in the name of the artboard. However, at the moment, Bravo currently doesn't have the possibility to set the active state, but it is something that they're working on and releasing soon. So because we can't show that active state, which I'm doing here with this little purple line, I decided to instead just use layer. Now what layer does is it kind of makes this component sticky, so it's going to stick in place. So that is always going to be here at the bottom of our screen. It's not going to move. The class details is just again a group that is set to a container, and inside has all the different layers of information. We also have that book button, and you'll notice I've made that a layer. Our book now button has the tag action remote. So if I go into our Bravo tag master list and down to actions, you'll see this first one here, action remote, and we can put it again on any layer except the container. So that's why I have things grouped as a layer and not container. And then I've just added it to the group name. And this is going to allow us to trigger an API request as an action. So like I mentioned, because we want to be able to display the class data here, and then we want to book this class, what we're going to actually do is post this information into our bookings database so that our booking screen knows what to display. So for our booking screen, again, when we have a booking in that database, it will be displayed here. And again, I just have a really simple little card design. Again, it is a container with this set area, and then the details here within the card. And you'll notice we have another action remote tag here on our cancel button, and that is because I want our users to be able to cancel a booking. So I'll show you how we can do a delete request through the API as well. So once you have your design document all set up and ready to go, make sure to add those important Bravo tags. Once you've got the tags, make sure you're also wiring up the prototype in prototype mode with XD. And this is just so Bravo knows where to navigate things to. So for example, because we're not creating the login page, we're going to ask our users to sign up. When I select this button, I'll create the link between the two screens here. And then you can see from our navigation bar that each of our items here goes to the correct corresponding screen. So our yoga icon goes to the yoga classes, and our calendar icon goes to our booking screen. And then for card details, you'll notice that both the card for classes on the home screen and the yoga classes screen goes here. And that again is because we've set this up to be a page template so it can be used multiple times. We don't need to create a separate one for each of these. Okay, and then a few little extras that I've created is the app icon, and then at the artboard level you're just going to tag that asset icon. I've got a splash screen that we'll only see once the app is published. This is something that we won't see in Bravo Vision when we're testing. And then I also have a loading state, and for this artboard I've just gone in and added a rectangle. If I give it a fill you'll see it there, and this is just a Lottie animation of a custom spinner that I've created, and you can see the tag to add here is component Lottie and then the .json URL of that Lottie animation, and you can find those online or create your own. And that is how we've created our app. So the last thing for us to do inside of XD is go to the Bravo Studio plugin. If you don't have it, you can click the little plus button up here and install it. But we're going to click on here. It will ask you to log in, and then you can select a project or create a new one. So we've already created this project. I could just click update. So if I make any changes in here, it's just as simple as clicking update, and that runs really quickly. Or if we wanted to create a new project, we would just put the name in here, hit create, and again, within a minute, Bravo creates that and sets that up for us. Okay, so now that we have designed our screens, we're going to go ahead and create our database using Airtable. If you've not used it before, go ahead and sign up for a free account. And then we're going to want to add a base. You can either import data from an existing database that you might have, or you can start with a template or from scratch. I usually just start from scratch because I'm doing a fairly simple thing. But we're going to use the yoga one I have here as an example. So you'll see within this database, I have multiple tables. The first one we have here is register account. And this is where the form data that our users fill out on that register screen is going to be posted by Bravo Studio when we hit that submit button. Next up, I have classes rec. These are the classes that I want to have displayed on that home screen. So you can see here I have the name, the duration, all those data points that we created in the design. We have the matching data content here. So the type of data we enter in this column, we just have set to a single line text. And for description, you'll see it is long text. And then for photo, because we want it to pull in a photo that is different for each class, we have it as attachment. And then the same basically is in classes and then class bookings. This is the table where Bravo will post the class information to once we hit that book now button. So once you have everything set up and you have at least one sample record in the databases that you want to post to, we can go ahead and get this connected via API in Bravo. So the first thing you're going to want to do once you've got everything ready is click this share button, then select base, and you're going to want to make sure that you've turned on private read-only link. That is going to give you this URL that we need to copy and paste into Bravo. So now switching over into Bravo, we're going to be a little bit back and forth between the two as we set these up. From my dashboard, you can see our project that we created right here. Because we had the app icon, we have this lovely icon displayed there. We need to set up that data library. So go ahead and select that from the left-hand menu and then create a new collection. And because we're using Airtable, there is a handy wizard that is going to set this up for us. So this is where we're going to paste in that share URL. Bravo is then going to ask us to enter our API key. Now, don't worry if you're not sure what this is. Basically, you're going to find that in Airtable. So go back over to Airtable, select your little avatar and click account. And on your account screen, you're going to see this is your API key right here in this purple box. So you want to copy this and paste it into Bravo. And once you've done that, you'll see you have a database set up like these ones I have here. But yours will just contain the GET requests because we haven't yet set up any post or delete requests. So let's go ahead and set up a post request now for our user accounts. You're going to hit on the blue plus button here, and we're going to first name this. So this is going to be a new user. And you're going to change get to post in this drop down. You'll see that also changes it to blue. the first thing we need to put in here is a URL. So we're going to go back to Airtable and we're going to click on this little question mark in the top right hand corner, and then API documentation from the bottom of that pop-out panel. That is going to navigate us to a screen that looks a little bit like this. And you'll see in the left-hand column the names of the tables you have in your database. So because we're wanting to post the user's data to our registered user table, that's the one we want to select, register account table. And then I'm showing the options. So we can retrieve a record, create a record, update a record, or delete a record. So right now we want to create a record because we want to post the data that our user has input into our form into the database. Now from the right hand side of the screen with the black background, you're going to want to copy that URL after the word post. So you just copy that, go back to Bravo, and we're going to paste that in here. Next up, we need to add the headers, and this is how we authorize Bravo to post to Airtable. So again, we're going to pop back over to that Airtable tab, and we're going to put authorization and paste that in there, and then bearer. And then you'll see after bearer it says your API keys, so make sure you paste that in afterwards as well. Just like that, and you separate the two with a space. The next thing we need to do is click on body and JSON. And I'm just going to expand this so you can see exactly what I'm doing. But from that Airtable page, we're going to copy some of this JSON code. So you'll see the word data and a quotation mark. And we basically want to copy everything inside these two quotation marks. So it goes all the way down to here, above example resource. And you'll notice it kind of looks like two records. So you want to copy that and then paste it into this box here. Now the next thing we need to do is with the first record that we can see here, we have Tim, not the second one, just this first one. We're going to replace the actual entry with a $sign and a pair of curly braces, open and closed. And inside those curly braces, I'm going to write name. So we're just going to enter this as a test value. So it can be the same word that relates to the content that is in that column of your table. So just go ahead and do that. So in between the quotation marks here, you're going to do $sign, curly braces. And for this one, we're going to write email. For photo, you want to do it inside the URL quotes here. So $sign, curly braces. I'm just going to write photo. And then in here, we're going to do $sign, curly braces, date of birth, $sign, curly braces, and contact. And then we'll go ahead and click send. And that is going to move you on to a test values tab and highlight these things in red. Now don't panic, it's not because anything is wrong. We need to complete this to get it fully set up. So under contact, you can just enter a number. Anything you want, it could be a string of zeros. Date of birth, we're just going to enter something in. For email, we're going to put susan@mail.com as an example. So this is Susan, and then for photo, we're just going to put the word photo in here for now. So when we go ahead and hit send here, you'll notice the bottom of the screen, something's changed. So underneath received data, you can see that this record was received by Airtable. And if we go back to Airtable, you'll see that we now have some extra records compared to what we had before. So before we just had Tim, and now we have Susan, and we have Tim again. Now this just shows that everything is working as we expected, and that we can also post photos to the database. So now the last thing we want to do is go back to that JSON tab in the body, and we're going to remove that second record because we don't want to add Tim to our database every time we send a record. So the best way to do this without removing any brackets that you will still need, because if we take a bracket out then everything's going to break. So I'm just going to go from contact to contact, and I'm going to hit backspace to remove it. So this is what I am left with. Basically all of these brackets and curly braces need to match up for this to work correctly. And if I hit If we go to our test values, I could change this to Clara. If I hit send again and go back to our table, you'll see that we now just have that posted as a single entry. So that is all set up and working fine. I'm just going to delete those. We don't need them. So that is how you can set up a post request. So we've done that for posting a new user. I did exactly the same thing for posting a class booking. And the next thing we're going to create is how to delete a booking. So we're going to go ahead and click the blue plus button, and we're going to change the name to class bookings. Then from this drop down, we're going to select delete. And because we want to delete a class booking, we're going to go back to our API documentation screen, and underneath class bookings, we're going to select delete record. And then this is the URL that we need to paste into Bravo. So remove the example, paste our URL. Now, the most important thing here, not to forget, is we need to add something onto the end of this URL here. We need to add $, curly brace, ID in lowercase, and then curly brace to close it. Okay, don't forget to add this at the end, it is really important. Now under headers, we're going to add our authorization again. Bearer. Oops. And our API key. Now we don't need to go into the body and do any JSON, but we do need to add a test value. So we entered ID in the URL in lowercase, and we need to do the same here as key. And now what we're going to do is go to class bookings list that was generated for us when we set up everything with the Airtable wizard. And you're just going to hit send. Now what you want to see here is you want to look for the retrieved data that is .data.records square braces .id. And you'll see this green text here. We want to copy this as a record ID, change the selected data name to lowercase id. We want to go back to our delete request that we're setting up, to our test values, where we've entered ID as the key. The value, we're going to paste in that record name. Okay, and now before I hit send, I'm going to show you class bookings. We have an entry here, so it can be deleted. And this is why we have some test entries in the database. If I hit send, you'll see received data, data deleted, true. So now when we go back to our table, you can see that entry is gone because Bravo has successfully deleted it.
Bravissimo! You've set up the API connections and we've created a get, post and delete request. Now all that's left to do is bind the data to our designs. Let me know down in the comments if you have any more questions about API.
So now we have our screens designed in Adobe XD, and we've connected our data library to our Airtable using the API connection. The next thing for us to do is connect that data to our designs. So let's go ahead and open the project. And the first screen that we're going to work on is that register screen. And then what we need to do is tell Bravo what data to bind to the elements on screen. So firstly, we need to select the right collection. So this is the Mystic Yoga Airtable database we have connected. And then we need to select which request to use. And these are all of the requests that we have just set up. So you can see all of the get requests, the post and the delete. So we're going to post new user. That's the one we want to do. This is where naming your layers becomes really, really helpful, because you can see here underneath the visual elements that we need to select, I have the background, which I know is this group here. And then we have the register form, which I know is this group here. So I can expand that and start to find the right layers that we need to connect up to our data. So for example, we know that email needs to connect to email. Then we also have the phone. So that's going to go to contact. We have date of birth. Same thing there. We have name. So we're just matching everything up underneath the content destination here. And then underneath add photo, we're also going to make that connect to the photo. That's all of our form fields here. You'll then also notice there's a little database icon next to the sign up button. So if you remember, we added that action remote Bravo tag to our button here in XD. So with that, Bravo already knows we're going to be posting this to the new user database. And you'll notice we have some response actions here at the bottom of the page. So on success, I want the user to be able to go to the home page. So I'm going to set that up there. And if there's an error, we're going to show them an alert. Just say, oops, error. And that screen is now all connected and has all the data binding complete. So the next screen we're going to set up is the home screen. So we're going to select our yoga database, and then we're going to select the get request, and we want to get the class recommended list. So we're going to select that one there, and then underneath the card you'll see we have slide. So we're going to select that, and in this right hand panel just select records, and now we're going to select the right layers to display the data. So class photo, this one is going to be photo URL. Yin Yoga is the name of the class. We have the rating, and we have the duration, and then lastly the date of when the class is. So once we've just made all of those connections, Bravo will now know to display that list of recommended classes that we have here. So these 3 classes will now be displayed in a row here with our horizontal slider container. And that is all we need to connect for that screen. Next up, we have our list of yoga classes. So similarly, connect to our yoga database, and then we want to get our classes list. And then the same as we did before, we're going to select our class list, and we're going to select records here. And then with each of the layers, we're going to bind it to the correct data. All of our content on this screen here is now bound to the right piece of data via our API connection to our Airtable database. Next up, we have our details screen. So I'm going to go ahead and open that. You know the drill. We're going to select our database, and then this is where we're going to make a different selection. So we want to get the class details. So we're not going to use classes list. We're going to use classes detail. So this one down here. And then from our page content, we're going to select each layer and then bind it to the right piece of content from the database here. Once we've done all of that, we need to set up our booking button. And you can see we have this little database icon again. So we're going to select our rectangle, and then we have a different option here in the right hand panel. Because we added that Bravo tag of action remote in our XD file, we now have the option here to say which action we want this button to carry out. So we can select from those API requests we set up before. And the one we want to do is for making a booking. So we want to post the booking. So this is where this class detail is going to be added to the class bookings table. And then that way it will show up on our booking screen. So we're going to add a confirmation message. So please confirm your booking. And it will have the options of yes and no. So on success, we'll take them to the booking screen so they can see that it was successful. And if there's an error, we're going to say oops. And that's our button all set up. So the last thing for us to do the data binding with is the booking screen. So from this one, again, you know the drill, we're going to select our database, and this time we're going to get our class bookings list. So that's this one here. And then here under the visual elements section, we're going to select our booking details and select records from the options on the right hand panel. So we're going to bind our booking details to the records, and then we're going to bind those individual details. And then the last thing for us to do, you'll see we also have this rectangle here and this icon with a database symbol. This is for our cancel button. So this is going to be when we want to delete this class booking. So again, we're going to select that, and we have this action panel again on the right hand side. And this time we're going to select our delete class booking request. We can ask the user, are you sure? If they select yes, then we can refresh this page to show them that the booking has been removed. And if there's an error, oops, something's gone wrong, we'll give them a message. And that's it. And that is everything all set up. We can now get our content from the API request to our Airtable database. We can also post the right information to our database from our contact form and from our class bookings. And we can also remove an entry via the delete API request from our bookings. So let's go ahead and see how this all works together using Bravo Vision on our device. So when we load up our app, we can sign up and we can go through the registration form. You can see the date picker brings up a native calendar date picker. And by entering our phone number, we get just the number pad. We can enter our email again with the full alphabetic keyboard. And the password is going to be obscured with the little dots. Next up, when we add a photo, we can either choose to take a selfie or pick one from the gallery. Once we've taken our selfie, we then can confirm it for use. When we're happy with all the information we've filled out, we can hit the sign up button that will post all of that data to our Airtable database via the API. Now our home screen has loaded. We can see that it has performed the GET request to load in our yoga classes in our recommended cards here. We can select one of them to view the details. And then also use that Book Now button to book the class. That action has posted the class booking details to our class booking database and then displayed it on our booking screen, where we can also delete bookings that we no longer want. And if we go to the yoga screen, it will also perform the GET request to pull in all of the other classes. So we can see them here. It's pulled in all of those photos and details for as many classes as we have records. And there we have it. You've created an app with a live API data connection and native use of forms. If you've liked this video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, and I'll see you in the next one.